You wake up and something is wrong. Not loud, not dramatic, quiet. A cut on your finger doesn't heal the way it should. A fever doesn't behave the way it used to. Somewhere in the world, a child scratches their arm, and the wound just keeps getting worse instead of better. At first, nobody notices the pattern. At first, it feels random, until the first hospitals start calling it impossible. Because something has changed. Not in one country, not in one city, everywhere, and nobody knows why. Then the real shock begins. People start asking a question no one is prepared for. What if medicine itself is gone? Not broken, not outdated, just erased. And the terrifying part, the human body didn't stop surviving. It just stopped surviving the way we understand. So the question becomes, how long does civilization last when healing stops behaving like it should? At first, nothing looks different. Hospitals are still running. Doctors still rush from room to room. Machines still beep with the same steady rhythm. But something feels off. A nurse notices it first. A routine surgery. Everything perfect. Clean incision. Controlled environment. Zero complications expected. And yet, the patient's body reacts differently. Not worse, not better, just unfamiliar. Like biology forgot the rules it used to follow. In another city, a pharmacy reports something strange. The most common medications are still there, but their effects feel inconsistent, not failing, not working the same way, as if the human body is no longer responding with memory, only reaction. And then, quietly, the first unexplainable recoveries appear. People expected to get worse don't. People expected to stabilize don't. It's random, unpredictable, almost like survival is being rewritten in real time, and nobody realizes it yet. This is only the beginning. By the second day, hospitals start noticing something they can't ignore. It's not that medicine stopped working, it's that patterns stopped existing. A diabetic patient stabilizes without insulin. A surgical wound heals too slowly, then suddenly accelerates. A fever that should break in hours lasts days, then vanishes without cause. Doctors try to categorize it, but every category collapses the moment it's formed, because every patient behaves differently, even identical cases, even identical bodies. It feels like the human body has forgotten its instruction manual. But worse than that, it feels like there was never one to begin with. And then someone says it out loud. What if medicine was never real in the way we thought it was? The room goes silent, because the implication is too big to hold. If medicine is gone, then what exactly were we relying on all this time? By day 3, the first global contradiction appears. In some places, survival rates improve. In others, they collapse. No explanation fits both realities at once. Entire hospital systems begin to fracture under confusion alone. Because now doctors are no longer fighting disease. They are fighting unpredictability. A broken bone heals in half the expected time in one patient and refuses to heal at all in another identical case. It's as if biology is experimenting and humans are the test subjects. Then comes the first real crisis. Emergency rooms overflow. Not because people are dying faster, but because outcomes can no longer be predicted. A simple infection becomes a gamble. A routine surgery becomes a question mark. And the terrifying shift happens quietly. People stop trusting hospitals. Not because they are failing, but because they no longer feel reliable. And when trust disappears, systems don't collapse immediately. They drift, slowly, quietly, until they are gone. Something unexpected begins happening outside hospitals. People start avoiding them. At first, it makes no sense. Why avoid the one place meant to save you? But the logic shifts. If outcomes are unpredictable, then intervention itself becomes a risk. So humans do what they have always done in uncertainty. They return to observation, and then they start remembering things. Not modern medicine. Older patterns. Natural recovery, herbs, rest cycles, isolation. But even these don't behave consistently anymore. A plant remedy that helps one person does nothing for another. A treatment that fails suddenly works in a different context. It's like the body is no longer following universal rules, only individual ones. And that realization changes everything. Because civilization was never built for individuality at this scale. It was built for patterns, predictability, repeatability. And now, none of that exists. Weeks pass, and something strange happens to society. It doesn't collapse, it fragments. Small pockets of stability appear. One neighborhood becomes safe for unknown reasons. Another becomes unpredictable. Entire cities develop reputations not for danger, but for medical uncertainty. Travel itself becomes a gamble, because no one knows how bodies will respond in different regions. Even nutrition becomes confusing. Food that once restored energy now affects people differently depending on unknown variables. And slowly, a terrifying idea spreads. Maybe medicine was never about control. Maybe it was just organized uncertainty, a way to make chaos feel predictable. And without that illusion, humans are forced to face something older than civilization, the body on its own. And yet, people survive. Not because they understand what's happening, but because they adapt faster than they can explain. New survival behaviors emerge. Hospitals transform into observation centers instead of treatment centers. Doctors stop prescribing certainty and start tracking patterns again. Communities begin sharing body histories instead of diagnoses, not because it works consistently, but because sharing increases the chance of accidental success. And slowly something ancient returns. Trial, error, memory. Survival passed through experience instead of science. But the most disturbing discovery comes later. Some people begin recovering from conditions that were once considered permanent, not because they were treated, but because their bodies adjust to uncertainty itself. As if human biology is learning in real time without permission. And that raises a question no one wants to ask. Was medicine ever controlling the body, or was the body always controlling itself? Zoom out far enough, and the story stops being about hospitals. It stops being about disease. It becomes something much larger. Medicine was never just treatment. It was agreement. A shared belief that certain actions produce certain outcomes. A system built on predictability. And the moment that predictability disappears, we don't lose healing. We lose confidence in healing, because the human body was always unpredictable. Medicine didn't remove uncertainty. It contained it, gave it structure, gave it language, gave it meaning. Without it, humans are forced back into a world where survival is not a system. It is an ongoing negotiation with reality. And that changes how you see everything. Every hospital, every prescription, every recovery you once thought was guaranteed. So what happens if medicine is erased? At first it looks like collapse. Then it looks like chaos. Then something stranger appears. Adaptation. Not perfect, not stable, but persistent. Because humans were never dependent on medicine. They were dependent on patterns. And when patterns disappear, the body does not stop surviving. It simply stops asking permission. And maybe the most unsettling thought of all is this. Medicine didn't create survival. It organized what survival was allowed to look like. And without it, we are forced to remember something we never wanted to know. The human body was never waiting to be saved. It was already learning how to survive. Maybe medicine was never the system that kept us alive. Maybe it was just the story we told ourselves to make survival feel predictable.